Okay, I'm reading from the Explorer Rays Particle Personalities book, channeled by Robert Shapiro, who's my favorite channel. I've read probably almost 15 of his books. And in this book, Robert Shapiro channels the consciousness of different particles. And I'm going to read some of the chapter of Particle of Healing Energy. And I'm actually doing this in a coaching session for Jane Karasik, who's my angelic light healing apprentice, and I've been coaching her on different things for about how long? A year? Have we been doing this for a year?
About a year, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, it doesn't seem that long, but she's really an amazing student, and she's going to be my first angelic light healing teacher. And I've also certified her to teach Usui Reiki and Karuna Reiki, so that she can, and she's, right now she's transitioning from a career and working in a medical center to becoming a full-time teacher and healer. So I'm not going to read this whole chapter, but I'm just going to read the most important parts. This is the beginning. I am a particle of what you call healing energy. This energy has many sources, but ultimately has to do with the soul's balance with its creator. If you can picture a wire that tightrope walkers move on, one side of the wire is held up by Creator, the other side is held up by your soul, each and every person's soul, but one wire per soul. Your personality of the moment, wherever you are focused, are the wire walker to the extent that you're in balance with your soul and Creator. Healing and disease defined. That is healing. True healing might take the form of the healing of a disease, either physical, mental, emotional, or even spiritual. Ultimately, healing is that balance whereby what Creator has benevolently granted you use without censorship or conditions. Most disease or discomfort in whatever your bodies is affected has to do with disqualifications that you believe apply to you at any given moment from what your Creator has granted you. How can you find out as an individual what your Creator has granted you? Certain gifts are basic and go to all, such as the ability to be human, to have air, food, shelter, and clothing. But as an individual, you have talents, abilities, things you do well. You always have unique talents. Even those of you who seem to have handicaps still have talents, something that comes easier to you than to others. Healing begins if and when you find out your talents, your special gifts from a Creator, and to what extent you use them and the other gifts that Creator bestows on all beings. And I just want to say that that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my journey of healing, is that the biggest healing for me in my life was to heal my drug addiction, because when I healed my drug addiction, the drug addiction was suppressing my talents, which I call the buried treasure. When I started to recover the buried treasure, that's when I became a healer, and a very happy healer, because that was the source of all my alienation, all my problems with addiction, trying to self-medicate myself to feel this kind of fulfillment that really I could have only gotten by tapping into my inner treasure, right? My inner talent, and developing that and sharing that for the greater good. So this is something that we often forget, that real healing is not just about making the pains and the diseases and the suffering and the depression, whatever it is that we're suffering with, not just to make those symptoms go away, but to actually liberate the innermost self, which is divine, right? Which is beautiful and which is powerful and which is loving, which love, wisdom, peace, all those beautiful things. Once we recover that, then we tend to be very healthy, and to know what's healthy for us and what's not healthy for us. So back to the book. And the woman that's questioning the channeler says, give me an example of someone who disqualifies this energy. Let's say a child is raised by people who were perhaps too young or immature, and this is the particle of healing energy speaking. Let's say a child is raised by people who were perhaps too young or immature to have a child, or who are unable or unwilling to love and care for it. They do not treat it well and say things that are harmful. These things act as deep-seated thoughts and feelings to discount what Creator offers that child. Maybe in a moment of anger, these parents say something they regret later, but once the wound is inflicted, it cannot be taken away. It can only be healed. They might say something cruel and foolish like, "You don't deserve to live," or "I should have given you away." Later, the parent regrets it and says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean that." Sometimes that's enough, but most often it isn't. But it has been said, oftentimes with feeling, it is the feeling that very often cuts as well. Then these children grow up feeling as if they are less than other people. Aside from all of the things that can develop, maybe they feel they are unworthy of air, food, shelter, water, basics. Even though they have talents and abilities, they struggle and suffer for a long time. Perhaps they don't have enough food or water or the best shelter. Perhaps they develop a disease related to this wound inflicted upon them as a child. Healing and love. So the particle of healing energy is going to talk about healing and love. True love and appreciation of them as beings can sometimes help them, but the only permanent help is for them to feel the love of Creator, divine love. Sometimes they can feel this by loving Creator, other times by being around others who love Creator. Healing begins with that love. As a particle of healing energy, I am connected to Creator and all beings who assist with healing. Take a sip. As a particle of healing energy, I am connected to Creator and all beings who assist with healing. I am connected to the angelic. I am connected to healers amongst you. I am connected to planetary bodies, the sun, the moon. I am connected to Creator. I am connected to the heart of all beings. As a particle of healing, I have passed through many individuals, for healing and love, which go together, pass through people. It cannot be captured. It can be appreciated as it passes through, but it cannot be held on to. Okay. And this, when I was reading this to my students, this is when I went off to speak about the water element, how water needs to flow. You know, it needs to be active. It needs to be like waves in the ocean, or the flowing of the river. You know, the mountain stream that's the bubbling stream going over the rocks. That's very happy water. Even a lake has a source, right? And if the water is just like, if there's no movement in the water, it can get stagnant. And this particle of healing energy is making the point that the healing energy needs to flow through. And of course, we understand that, Jane and I understand that as energy healers, because the way we're taught is that we're just the channel. You know, we're like the conduit through which the healing energy flows through. And we know that healing energy is love. It is the love frequency. It is the love vibration. It comes from your heart, but not just your personal heart, the heart of Creator, the one heart of all that is, right? And this is what this particle of healing energy is saying in such a beautiful way, channeled through Robert Shapiro. It cannot be captured, you know. And when we're feeling our feelings, we wish we could capture those good feelings and just have the good feelings, the happy feelings, that high feeling all the time. It doesn't work that way, you know. Sometimes you feel happy, sometimes you feel sad. You know, if you lose a loved one, it's time to grieve. You're not going to just, be happy all the time because you've lost a loved one. You know, you lost the physical presence of that loved one, not the spiritual presence. You lost the physical presence of that loved one. That's a precious thing, especially if it was your husband or your wife or your somebody that you're very close to, a sister or brother, or even a very good friend. It can be devastating to lose somebody, and we need to allow ourselves to grieve deeply. That's healthy. The feelings must flow through. They must move through us. We must feel them in order for them to flow through. All the different shades of emotion, all the different feelings. Anger can be positive. It can take us out of apathy. Today I was shooting baskets and I kept missing. I allowed myself to get angry. I bounced the ball. I said, "This is dumb. I know I can make the shot." And finally I made the 10 foul shots in a row. But I had to get angry first. It woke me up. It got the energy moving. And I didn't hurt myself. I didn't hurt the basketball. But it was healthy anger. But we don't, when we capture the anger, the energy cannot be captured, right? We're nurturing the anger. We're letting it fester within us. We're letting it eat away at us. That makes you sick, and that's the basis of cancer, which eats away at you, right? It's emotional aspect of that is resentments that we can't forgive, need to forgive. Forgiveness is love. And forgiveness is when we let go of the resentments, the anger, the judgments they're not gonna change anybody else, and they're gonna hurt us. I say that anger is like, nurturing a resentment against somebody else is like taking poison and hoping the other person will be harmed. It cannot be captured. It can be appreciated as it passes through, but it cannot be held on to. Love works best when it is passed freely amongst individuals and all beings. It does not work well when it is held, for then it does not emit its healing and loving energy. It is emitted as it moves, and it has been my privilege to have passed through many beings, some of whom you know, some you do not. Some planets and other star systems are famous for healing. I have had the opportunity to exist on a planet in the Zeta Reticuli system, where the beings of the Zeta culture will go to this day to experience the insights of Creator as they know Creator to be. They also experience Creator's love in the form they need, which is a gold light being. And I always work with golden light beings, and I have one merge with me because they're a very high vibration of Creator's love for all creation, spiritual mastery. And my modality that was actually given to me by Creator, we could say, is Divine Mother and Golden Light beings are the main energies in it. The Divine Mother energy, which is very gentle and nurturing and nourishing, and the Golden Light being energy, which is profoundly divine. If you were to see this gold light being, it would look rather like an angel. It is being like these who offer the unconditional love that Zeta Reticulans cherish. I'm not going to finish this thing about ETs. I want to go right to the healing stories. And the questioner is asking the particle, can you tell us some of the experiences you have when going through beings? It doesn't matter whether we know them or not, but how does the process work? And the particle talks. I remember a time in a church where healings take place. It was in a community in southern United States. There was a visiting minister who worked with one or two female assistants. The assistants would stand in front of the people and ask for healing energy to be radiated through them. Some people thought it was a show, but the minister and her assistants knew it was real. One time a man came up who had grown weary of life. He had lost his brothers in World War II and had lost his wife in the 70s. One of the worst things that can befall a parent happened to him. His children had died before him, so he's alone and had no one. He happened to be passing the church that day and went into it. The minister seized him by the temples, for that was his way, and asked that the light and love of God come into this man and heal his heart. The man had not told any of those things I have told you to the preacher. He did not say he was sick or heartsick, none of this. But the preacher, being at heart a truly spiritual man, knew this and asked that this man's heart be healed. It was my privilege to pass through this man's heart in company with other particles and out into the rest of the people there. I observed the darkness around this man's heart lift as a result of the particles of angelic healing passing through him. Afterward, he felt cheered and buoyed by the experience and joined the church. Eventually, even at his advanced age, he was in his 80s, he fell in love again, married, and enjoyed the children of his new wife. I was able to know these things because this was some time ago. Recently, the man passed away, and it was an easy passage. There was no wound left to heal. The healing lasted, and he knew he had been healed. It had been a good life. And the woman who's questioning says, "That's beautiful. Can you tell us some other examples?" That was very touching. Yes, another time I was in a hospital. I know the town because it was written clearly there, St. Louis, Missouri. There was a woman, perhaps a nurse, who wore white. She tended sick children who were receiving medication for terrible illnesses that children are sometimes born with. This woman had a heart that was filled with true unselfish love. She would not only tend the children and bathe them, which was her duty, she would give them love from her heart. She would do this by singing to them. Whenever she nursed them or washed them, she would sing them a little song. It was so filled with love that of two children who were terribly sick, one was healed completely and the other went into a 7-year remission when death had been expected imminently. The child eventually died but had an extra 7 years to enjoy with his parents and friends. She helped the others to die pleasantly, children who were in terrible pain and suffering. She sang them a song, not so much consisting of words as the feeling of true unconditional love in her heart. And this true love, which was and is given to you all from Creator, shone through her completely without restriction. By so doing, some children who were suffering terribly, even with the best of treatment, were able to pass away in their sleep, which is, as you know, is the best way. I'm recalling this occasion because this individual has recently retired from that hospital. I don't think she knows today what great gifts she had unselfishly given during her career, but she will know someday. Another time, perhaps a special occasion, there was a moment, a frightening moment, when a man who was frightened and upset about going to prison had people in his house. Police were all around the house, but there was a policeman who left his weapons of force and went to the door. The man knew the policeman because the policeman had arrested him once before, but he felt good about the policeman because he had been treated fairly and kindly. The policeman came in and talked to the man. He told him there was no way he could avoid going to prison, but that he would go with him and put in a good word for him with the guards, which he did. All the time he was saying this, healing energy was openly flowing through his heart. It was not the words so much, even though he lived up to his words. It was the feeling that the frightened man felt. As the fear was being dissipated by the loving, healing energy, the man put down his gun, apologized to the people he was holding prisoner, and went with the policeman. The policeman took him to prison and put in a good word with the guards, just like he said he would. Now that man is in prison, but soon he will be released. Because of the experience with the policeman, he thought about his life and considered how he could change it. He has found true meaning and purpose in the Muslim religion. He will now become a religious man and someday be of great assistance to people of that religion in this country. See how healing tends to grow? It is like a healthy tree. Once you allow the tree to take root, all you have to do is continue to allow loving, healing energy to pass through you, and the tree will take root and bloom and have fruit. The tree will be consumed by the people, and more trees will take root. In time, the forest of healing and love will be all around you, and it will have seemed so easy. And the woman who's questioning says, this is powerful because people can realize how little it takes to serve the Creator and others. The particle of healing energy continues. As you know, it can be very challenging. The biggest challenge here is to try to remember the basics that are granted to you by Creator. I believe that you are challenged to such an extent here at this time because Creator wants to expose you to chaos so you can remember your core, your roots. If you remain conscious of your root of love and healing with Creator, no matter what chaos or strangeness is around you, it will melt in your presence. How about that? Leaving Creator's body. I'm not going to read that part. There's one more story. So this is this particle of healing energy. This was its first experience on this planet Earth. It was perhaps in your year 1939. It was during the time of the Great War, of Number 2 War, a good time to be here as a healing particle, in other words, World War II. Perhaps this is a bit rough for you, but I will tell you anyway. I remember passing through in a unique circumstance. It was what was called then a concentration camp, and there was a child in the camp, a young girl child. The guards in the camp hated their jobs. That is why some of them behaved so badly. Those who were normally in the army but had been sent to be guards as punishment hated their jobs because they felt they were serving an immoral cause. There was one guard who was thinking this very thought. Without being bidden to do so, the girl prisoner, she was about 5 years old, walked over to the guard. This guard was not unkind or cruel to children or any of the prisoners, just businesslike, as you would say. The little girl talked to the guard, but there was so much noise he could not hear. So he bent down and put his ear close to the girl's mouth. She said, "I forgive you." And she said it with pure love. It went into the guard, who was a soldier, and in 3 days he deserted the post and shed his uniform, hiding until the end of the war. When he had a chance, he went into the ministry and became a religious man. He never forgot that forgiveness from the mouth of an innocent. He never forgot that forgiveness from the mouth of an innocent is what allowed him to feel that there might be something he too could do. Even today, this man is alive, but he is very old. He kept a secret and changed his name. No one knows that he deserted, and he would not have done this had he not been at this camp, but he could not bear to stay there and see the awful things that were being done. So he lives today. He is very old, and perhaps within this year will pass over. If he should hear of this story, I want him to know that there will be no judgment on him as he passes over. He will be welcomed into the arms of Creator. So those are the stories that I like to share for my students in my Reiki classes. I hope you liked it.